Let me tell you what my deep research and basically vision is.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is.
I'm not telling you nothing.
The aliens won't let it happen. Happening now, breaking.
Bernie Sanders is angry.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
What are the tips? Give me some tips on how to work with Wes Anderson.
Be ready to speak very fast and very clearly, because that's definitely one key thing.
I will only tell the truth.
Until you and 6 kids you barely know in wet bathing suits have surrounded 9 chimpanzees outside of a Wendy's. You probably really don't know yourself, okay?
Yep. And we back.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to your new favorite podcast and the best in political, sports, and paranormal news coverage. I'm your host, Wes Anderson, and this is In the Shed. This is episode 008, so whether you're back for more or finding us for the first time this week, hey, thanks for tuning in. It's late Friday night, March 12th. It is a muggy, foggy night here in Alabama, and I am in the backyard of my house, in a shed, all so I can hang out with you tools and talk about the latest headlines, stories, and rumors in the world of politics, sports, and the paranormal. I was passing through the living room this week, and I made a mistake, y'all. I messed up, man. I messed up. My wife had a TV show on that I did not recognize, and it seemed interesting. What little I saw piqued my interest, so I did a little drive-by. I didn't park, mind you, but I did a little drive-by. I just wanted a taste, just a little bit taste of what the show was about. And man, do I wish I had not done that. I got sucked in, y'all. I got sucked in, man. It was 3 episodes later before I came up for air and realized I had fallen under the spell. It was like I was in a trance. Do you know what show it was? It was a show called This Is Us. Have you seen it? It's very well scripted. The actors are amazing, and I can never watch it again. I can never watch that show again. It's too much. It's too much. I can't handle it. My eyes were getting sweaty. Knees weak, arms were heavy. The emotion, it wasn't really an emotional roller coaster. It was more like an emotional roller coaster had gone off the tracks during an earthquake in the middle of a blizzard in the desert. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. That show is bananas. It's a show about a family, all right, and it follows the lives of the adults and all the ways in which they are screwed up. And then it traces each of their faults, addictions, and relational hardships back to their childhood. A childhood in which they were raised by parents who loved them, who loved each other, and who were involved in their lives. And I cannot handle it. I can't watch it. They had good parents. They had good parents, man, and yet each and every one of them is a train wreck of an adult. And y'all, I'm raising little people. I've got 2 of them. I can't watch that show, man. Every twist, every turn of the storyline has me worrying about how embarrassing my kids once by accident or mistakenly letting my 4-year-old watch 10 minutes of Die Hard is going to screw them up for life. It's rough. It's rough, man. So This Is Us. Not for me, it isn't. I found a better show, something to watch instead, something a little more my speed. It's a little ditty entitled Airplane Repo, and I recommend it highly. It's a show about guys who repo airplanes. It's all right there in the title. No childhood trauma, no parenting mistakes, just unpaid bills and guys with mullets sneaking into airports to hijack airplanes while being chased and sometimes shot at, flying them away in the dark, and returning them to the rightful owners. It's awesome. After I watched my 4th episode, I happened to tweet that I found a new show, and one of the guys from the show liked the tweet. I didn't even use any hashtags. I have 150 followers on Twitter. I do not know how he found my post, but I did make sure my truck payment was in on time. You can bet your bottom dollar that, because those guys are good. And apparently, they know who I am. All right, enough of that. Let's get to some comments and corrections from last week's show. Keystone 56, Hanobia 35. That's not a high school football score. It's the amount of days that we have waited so far. Still no Bigfoot invites for the show. 2 beautiful cities, one in South Dakota, one in Oklahoma. Which of you will come through first? You can reach the show by emailing us at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. We're waiting. On last week's show, in sharing a news story about the South Dakota Attorney General hitting and killing a pedestrian with his car, I pronounced the AG's name as both Ravensbourg and Ravensbourg. Pretty sure it's Ravensbourg. After a week of rethinking my SEC football job rankings, I have to say that I think I would like to switch Arkansas and Mississippi State. At this point, I think Arkansas is a more covetous job. On last week's show, we said Les Miles had been suspended by Kansas. He's now been fired by Kansas. We also shared a story last week about an Indiana high school girls basketball coach who was suspended after his team won a game 161-2. As it turns out, y'all, I got duped. Though I saw the story circulating on social media, as it turns out, it was a story from 2015. I usually do a better job of verifying before sharing with you, but even I make mistakes occasionally, so my bad. I stand behind my opinion on the story, though. Last week, I also shared with you a story about the CDC issuing zombie preparedness tips without actually sharing any of those tips with you. Again, my B, fam. My B. We're up to 31 listeners now in India, 7 in France, and 5 very important Aussies down under. From the bottom of my medically oversized heart, I thank you. Keep spreading the word, share our show with your friends, and from the ground floor up, let's build this thing together. And finally, I would like to wish a very happy birthday to my one and only grandpa. My pawpaw turned 80 years old this week. My pawpaw is a West Virginia man, a Mississippi legend, and a cross between John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, and Colonel Sanders. On a side note, I also found out that Chuck Norris had a birthday this week as well, and he turned 81. And in a head-to-head death match, yo, I'm taking my pawpaw. Chuck Norris can't get any height on those roundhouse kicks at his age, and my pawpaw has a death grip like the jaws of life that can bring a grown man to his knees. Pawpaw, you're the only grandpa I've ever had. You're a darn good one, and I love you. Happy birthday. And let's get to some listener emails. We had several emails this week. Thanks to everyone for writing in. Our first email comes from Ronnie from Louisville, Kentucky, or Louisville. Ronnie says, your rap was fire. Pass. Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate the words of affirmation. Our next email comes from Glenn in Tennessee. Glenn writes, you're no rapper, stick to podcasting. Trash. Very hurtful, Glenn. Very hurtful. Well, you think that I'm no rapper. However, I'll have you know that my good friend Ronnie from Louisville, Kentucky disagrees. So that's one pass and one trash so far when it comes to my attempt at a little bit of hip-hop. Kelly in California says, pass. Thank you, Kelly. And our good friend Ramesh in India says, while the sound quality wasn't great, your lyrics were. I give you a pass. All right, I'll take it. That's 3 passes to 1 trash. It looks like I am a true hip-hopper after all. And Ramesh, my friend, my guy, my man, it's good to hear from you again. Thank you for writing into the show for a record second time. We really do appreciate it. Another listener, Clark from Atlanta, writes, bro, you don't know basketball. No way is Trae Young top 5 point guard in the NBA. And no way James Harden is better than Damian Lillard. It's funny to me that you write that and you are from Atlanta, not a Trae Young fan, huh? I do think Trae Young is a top 5 point guard in the NBA, and I have laid out the reasons for that thought 2 weeks now. I won't do it again here. I do appreciate your email. And Damian Lillard is a heck of a player, one of my favorite players in the league to watch. But if you look at their gameplay this year, their statistics, and how they're raising the play of those around them, I think that you have to say James Harden is a better point guard this year so far than Damian Lillard. Tucker from Mississippi asks, Wes, you gave us a report on the life of Tommy Tuberville, but didn't share your own opinion. What do you think of him? That's a great question. I appreciate that, Tucker. I didn't give my opinion because a lot of times we are a news show and we just kind of give it to you straight, give you the news, give you a report, and that was my intention last week. But since you asked, I'll give you my personal opinion. I am an Auburn Tiger football fan and appreciate the 6 wins that he gave us over Alabama in a row. However, I think that Tommy Tuberville is a little bit of a chameleon. I think that he pretty much says and does whatever will benefit him at the time. You have seen this throughout his career in football, his career in politics. The fact that he is someone that spent time in Kentucky, Florida, and Alabama trying to find the easiest path to win is not encouraging. And I don't really have a lot of respect for the man. So, yeah. And I got to give a shout out to my fraternity brother and friend, Alex Taylor, a great man who gave me the idea to talk about the life of Tommy Tuberville. It's an interesting and winding story, and I appreciate the support and the suggestion. Alex, keep them coming, buddy. And finally, Mary Alice in North Carolina says, I know a vampire. Whoa. Mary Alice. For real. She says, I know a vampire, a girl I went to high school with. She was into some dark, occult stuff. I found your report on vampires interesting. Thank you, Mary Alice. I appreciate that. That is creepy that you actually know someone who is a vampire, and not just someone that is a normal, everyday person that has a little bit different interests like some of the folks interviewed in the article that we shared last week, but someone who is a vampire and is into the world of the occult. I would like to hear more about that. Email the show, tell me your experiences with this person, and we might share that on air as a follow-up story. That's all the listener emails for this week. If you want to share your thoughts about one of the stories that we have talked about on the show, or if you just want to say hi, you can email the show at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. Again, that's intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. And if you're hearing this, take a minute. Send us an email. I would love to hear from you. That's all the email for this week. Let's get to the news, starting with the world of politics, and let's hit the headlines. Children packed into Border Patrol tent for days on end, according to Newsmax. From the American Conservative, in his first primetime address, the president presented himself as a national father to a skeptical nation. Cuomo clings to political life, says The Hill. Pace of U.S. vaccinations speeds up by 40%, writes the New York Times. And finally, Facebook told black applicant with PhD she needed to show she was a cultural fit, and that is according to The Intercept. Our first story in the world of politics this week is a follow-up on a story that we shared last week. South Dakota lawmakers vote to halt impeachment against Attorney General. The South Dakota House of Representatives voted on Monday to halt impeachment proceedings against the state attorney general over his conduct in a fatal car crash last year while he still faces unresolved criminal charges from the accident. The lawmakers voted 57-11 to suspend further impeachment action against the state's top law enforcement official, Republican Jason Ravensborg. The move marks a sharp turnaround after both Democrats and Republican politicians had called for his ouster. The clamor reached its peak last month after the state authorities took the extraordinary step of releasing video of police interrogations of the Attorney General and other evidence from the September 12th crash in which his car struck and killed a man walking along a highway. In the video, Ravensborg told police he believed he had run into a deer rather than a person until he returned to the scene the following day to find the body of the victim, 55-year-old Joe Beaver, lying in a roadside ditch. Investigators suggested that Ravensborg's account lacked credibility, telling him under questioning that a broken pair of eyeglasses belonging to Beaver were found in his car, indicating the victim's face had gone through the windshield on impact. Police also told Ravensborg that Beaver had been carrying a flashlight, which was still illuminated when they found it the next day, and the evidence showed Ravensborg had driven onto the shoulder of the road where the victim was walking. The video sparked immediate outrage. Governor Kristi Noem, a fellow Republican, demanded the resignation of Ravensborg, who is charged with 3 misdemeanor offenses in the accident. A bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced an impeachment resolution in the state's Republican-controlled House of Representatives. but a state judge on February 25th ordered the police interrogation video and other evidence sealed, ruling that its disclosure violated Ravensborg's due process rights. The court order prompted legislative leaders to introduce amendments to the impeachment articles, barring further House proceedings against Ravensborg at least until the criminal case against him is resolved. The House's action today will allow the legal system to proceed without further interference and with due process, Ravensborg said in a statement issued on Monday through his lawyer. Ravensborg, who has denied wrongdoing and refused to resign, is due to make his initial court appearance in the case on Friday. So we talked about this case last week, and this is a bizarre one. And I don't really understand what has happened in South Dakota. I don't understand what information has come out that has changed these lawmakers' minds for them to halt impeachment proceedings by a huge, overwhelming margin of 57-11 vote in this case. The evidence here is clear that A.G. Ravensborg has done wrong. The fact that evidence shows that he went onto the shoulder where the man was walking, the fact that the man's glasses were inside his car, the fact that he was the one to actually find the guy the next day, the fact that cell phone data shows that he was on his phone immediately before and immediately after the crash, I don't see how A.G. Ravensborg can deny responsibility, deny wrongdoing, and I don't know what his colleagues are doing. This man is the top law enforcement officer of the state. Evidence shows that he has made an egregious error that has snuffed out the life of another human being. This isn't time to play politics. It's not time to rep your team. It's not time to have the back of somebody that has an R beside their name just like you have an R beside your name. This is a time for justice to be done on behalf of Mr. Joe Beaver. There's no doubt that A.G. Ravensborg should be impeached if he refuses to resign. And honestly, I'm still questioning how it is that he's even being charged with 3 misdemeanors and no felonies. This is a miscarriage of justice. This is why people do not trust law enforcement or politicians, because too often people in those fields tend to defend those in their field who have clearly done wrong. If there is somebody working in my field who gets accused of a crime and evidence shows that in fact they have committed that crime, I want that person prosecuted to the fullness of the law. I want him to face justice. I want things to be made right. I don't want that person representing my field. I don't want that person being someone that folks look at and say that person has the same job as Wes. But too often, when it comes to policing in our country, when it comes to politicians in our country, there's a different standard there. For whatever reason, these folks close ranks. These folks, whenever one of their own has been accused of a crime, even if it appears that they have committed the crime, they defend each other. They hold the line. They have each other's back no matter what. Stop it. Stop it. This is a case where a politician, a top cop in the state is getting preferential treatment, and it is wrong. It's something that we will call out every time on this show. We keep it a buck with you. South Dakota, I don't know what you're doing. You need to get that man up out of office. That man belongs in some bracelets. I don't usually go that far. I usually just report the news, but this one kind of has me a little fired up because it's not right. A man has lost his life. The evidence clearly shows that this guy's at fault, and something should be done about it. We're going to keep up with this story on In the Shed. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to keep this thing under the microscope until justice is served. We're going to let you know what happens. We're not going to let it go. This is something that matters. This is something that matters in our country. When folks break the law, when folks do things that harms other people, they need to be held accountable. And when someone holds the top law enforcement office in your state, when someone is an elected official, they should be held accountable tenfold. They should be held to a higher standard, not to lesser of a standard. So we'll keep an eye on this. We'll let you know what happens. And we hope that justice is served for the family of Joe Beaver in this case. Our next story in the world of politics: Honduran President urged drug trafficker to shove cocaine right up the noses of the gringos, the U.S. alleges. Federal prosecutors in New York said in court Tuesday that Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez plotted to ship cocaine to the U.S. with alleged drug trafficker Giovanni Fuentes Ramirez, who was arrested in Florida on trafficking and arms charges in March 2020. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jacob Gutwillig, in his opening statement in Fuentes Ramirez's trial, said an accountant overheard Hernandez tell Fuentes Ramirez that he wanted to shove the drugs right up the noses of the gringos. They plotted to send as much cocaine as possible to the United States, Gutwillig said. He dated the incident to 2013 or 14 and said the accountant, who prosecutors are calling Jose Sanchez, will testify in the trial. A lawyer for Fuentes Ramirez responded that Sanchez is not a credible witness and is testifying only to obtain U.S. asylum. Hernandez reiterated his claims of innocence on Monday, tweeting that the drug traffickers are implicating him for his anti-trafficking efforts and to obtain lighter sentences. Drug Enforcement Administration agent Brian Fairbanks, who arrested Fuentes Ramirez, testified Tuesday that he found Hernandez's phone number and email address in Fuentes Ramirez's cell phone and identified the Honduran president in a photo next to Fuentes Ramirez's son and brother. Hernandez was also accused of accepting more than $1 million in bribes from Mexican kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman during his trial that ended in the 2019 conviction of the president's brother Juan Antonio Hernandez. A court filing last month suggests the U.S. is investigating Juan Orlando Hernandez, though he has not yet been charged with a crime. Yo, this is a crazy story right here. This is the president of another country who they allegedly have on record as a drug trafficker, plotting with others to ship large amounts of cocaine into the United States. That's some crazy stuff. Our presidents have been accused of crazy stuff, but that's some crazy stuff. I don't know much about the Honduran president. I have been to Honduras myself. I went to a beautiful island off the coast of Honduras that belongs to the country called Roatan, a beautiful place with some awesome scuba diving. Stayed at an eco resort there in college with some of my friends and had the time of my life. Beautiful country, but yo, your president is out here shipping cocaine? This man's working with El Chapo? This man's shipping cocaine to the United States, talking about get them drugs up the nose of the gringos? Yo, we thought we had it bad. If this turns out to be true, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, what action the U.S. government will take, if any. Will they play hardball? Will they put sanctions on the nation of Honduras? I would hate to see that nation have to suffer consequences because of the actions of their leader. But man, that's crazy. That's crazy. It's not something that you hear every day. The president of a country indicated in drug trafficking. I thought that was worth sharing with you, and we'll keep an eye on that to see what happens with it. The president of a country shipping cocaine into the U.S. Dang. Our next story, we're going to lose fast. U.S. Air Force held a war game that started with a Chinese biological attack. Last fall, the U.S. Air Force simulated a conflict set more than a decade in the future that began with a Chinese biological weapon attack that swept through U.S. bases and warships in the Indo-Pacific region. Then, a major Chinese military exercise was used as cover for the deployment of a massive invasion force. The simulation culminated with Chinese missile strikes raining down on U.S. bases and warships in the region, and a lightning air and amphibious assault on the island of Taiwan. The highly classified war game, which has not been previously made public, took place less than a year after the coronavirus, reportedly originating in a Chinese market, spread to the crew of the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier, taking one of the U.S. Navy's most significant assets out of commission. Yeah, that seems pretty similar, eerily similar. The war game and what happened in real life. Then in September, in the midst of the war game, actual Chinese combat aircraft intentionally flew over the rarely crossed median line in the Taiwan Strait in the direction of Taipei an unprecedented 40 times and conducted simulated attacks on the island that Taiwan's premier called disturbing. Amid those provocations, China's Air Force released a video showing a bomber capable of carrying nuclear weapons carrying out a simulated attack on Andersen Air Force Base on the U.S. Pacific island of Guam. The title of the Hollywood-like propaganda video was "The God of War, H-6K, Goes on the Attack." In case the new U.S. administration failed to get the intended message behind all that provocative military activity, 4 days after President Biden took office, a large force of Chinese bombers and fighters flew past Taiwan and launched simulated missile attacks on the USS Roosevelt carrier strike group as it was sailing in international waters in the South China Sea. Little wonder that many foreign affairs and national security experts believe the global pandemic has accelerated trends that were already pushing the United States and China toward a potential confrontation as the world's leading status quo and rising power, respectively. This month, the Council on Foreign Relations released a special report, The United States, China, and Taiwan, a strategy to prevent war, which concluded that Taiwan is becoming the most dangerous flashpoint in the world for a possible war between the United States and China. In Senate testimony on Tuesday, the head of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Phil Davidson, warned that he believes China might try and annex Taiwan in this decade, in fact, within the next 6 years. Meanwhile, a leading Chinese think tank recently described tensions in the U.S.-China relations as the worst since the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989, and it advised Communist Party leaders to prepare for war with the United States. What many Americans don't realize is that years of classified Pentagon war games strongly suggest that the U.S. military would lose that war. Well, isn't that alarming? Yo, that's pretty scary. I am not someone who is a fan of the military-industrial complex. I think that in general, and I do mean in general, as a nation, we spend far too much money on national defense, on spending at the Pentagon, when our education is falling behind, when we have not made needed updates to our infrastructure in so long, when so many people die simply because they do not have health care. There's all kinds of places I would love to see us spend that money instead. But then you read a story like this. Apparently, the Air Force has been doing secret military war games, which if you do not know what that is, it's just basically a simulation of what might happen if we were to go to war. And the way they see it, the way the dominoes would fall 9 times out of 10, we lose in a war with China. And I can't say that I'm too surprised by that. If you look at military upgrades, if you look at sheer numbers, if you look at technology, if you look at finances, China, we're all aware that they're right there with us when it comes to being a world power, and many are suggesting that they will overtake us in the next 5-6 years. There's been growing tension when President Trump was in office. Biden is a little bit friendlier with China. Some might say too friendly with China. But that is not something that we want. We do not want war with China. And China's getting a little bit ballsy. China's messing with Taiwan. China's doing some simulated airstrikes over Guam. First of all, what is a simulated airstrike? Don't pretend to fire at my people in Guam. I happen to like Guam. I happen to be a fan of Guam. So China, don't be flying no bombers over the nation of Guam, pretending to do no airstrikes, simulating this or simulating that. You want to throw hands, we can throw hands, shawty. But we don't need to go to war. Not with China, not with anybody, but especially not with China. We owe them so much money. They have so much better technology. They're on the ascent. We might not be on the ascent anymore. We might not be on the descent yet. But we've been kind of middling for a while when it comes to our position in the world. And not everybody is so afraid of us. We're not the ones that everybody thinks that they can't mess with. Most of the world, yeah, sure. China not afraid, shawty. China not afraid. Now look, my Chinese friends, I love a lot about your country, but I do not want to go to war. I hope President Biden and company find a way to normalize relations without being walked over. I think that you can find a balance there. We do have to have a strong military and a strong defense. I so appreciate what our military does for us. The sacrifice that those men and women make is incredible. I have the utmost respect for my friends who are serving. Robert, thank you very much. Alec, thank you very much. And all of the rest of you that I know that are serving, Garrett, everybody else, appreciate you. I appreciate you. But I don't want you to have to go to war, especially not with the Chinese. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right, so our first three stories in the world of politics were stories that didn't really have so much of a happy ending. So I thought we would end on a good note tonight. This is a cool story. It doesn't start off that way, so bear with me, but it has a happy ending, like a Disney film. You know what I'm saying? Like a Disney film. So hang in there until we meet Prince Charming, until he storms the castle. So just sit right back and relax. Have no fear, my tools, because this story is going to end on a good note. All right? You ready to proceed? Then let's proceed. Michigan Zoom hearing adjourned when attorney spots alleged assaulter and victim in same home. A virtual preliminary examination in Michigan was interrupted last week after the defendant was found to be at the same home as an alleged victim of assault while the hearing took place. Kobe James Harris, 21, had gone before St. Joseph County District Court on March 2nd, accused of assault with intent to commit bodily harm less than murder, stemming from an incident February 9th in Sturgis, Michigan. The felony carries a prison term of up to 10 years for a first offense and 15 years for a habitual offender. Mary Lindsay, who appeared in the court live stream as the reported victim, said the assault stemmed from a brief argument at a residence in Sturgis. According to Lindsay, she and Harris had been dating at the time. The hearing was streamed live online and posted to Judge Jeffrey Middleton's court YouTube channel. Is that a thing? A court YouTube channel? And it's live? That's better than Judge Judy right there. Like, shawty, we need to get up on that YouTube. Find this man's live stream. There's some crazy stuff happening. Let's go. About 7 minutes into the proceeding, Deborah Davis, assistant to the prosecuting attorney and representing Lindsay, said she believed Lindsay and Harris were in close proximity during the live stream based on Lindsay's answers and body language. Your Honor, I have reason to believe that the defendant is in the same apartment as the complaining witness right now, and I am extremely scared for her safety, Davis said. The fact that she's looking off to the side and he's moving around, I want some confirmation that she is safe before we continue. Applause for you. Applause for you. Yo, I said Prince Charming. We got a Princess Charming because this is Deborah Davis. That's a princess. And yo, she is a bad, bad lady. She coming through in the clutch, man. She's noticing that stuff. She's vigilant. She's keeping watch. She's keeping her people safe. I want Deborah Davis on my team anytime, shawty. Middleton asked Lindsay where she was at that moment. I'm at a house, Lindsay said with hesitation, giving an address in Sturgis. Middleton then asked Harris to divulge the address where he was. Harris gave a different house number. Middleton told Harris to go outside with his cell phone and take a photograph of the house number. Good job, Judge. Good job. Harris declined, saying he was limited by low phone battery and that his device was connected to a charger. A few moments later, Davis said the police were at the door of Lindsay's confirmed location to check on her. Lindsay was instructed to go to the door and speak with the police. We may need to adjourn this, Your Honor, Davis said to Middleton. Lindsay's connection to the court proceeding went offline after it showed her speaking to police outside the home. Moments later, Lindsay's live stream came back online showing Harris inside on Lindsay's phone and in the custody of police. Davis briefly face-palmed upon the reveal that Harris was at the same location as Lindsay. Your Honor, me and Mary both don't want the no contact, Harris said. I asked that it be dropped. I'm sorry I lied to you. I knew the cops were outside. I don't know why Middleton interrupted Harris. Mr. Harris, my advice is don't say anything else, Middleton said to Harris. The hearing is adjourned. Your bond is canceled. If you have $10 million, you can bond out. Yo, that judge is savage. If you have $10 million, you can bond. He know that man ain't got no money. Like, for real. That's what I'm talking about, Judge. You can get him. In addition, the prosecutor's probably also going to charge you with obstruction of justice. Middleton directed Sturgis police officers to take Harris into custody on a bond violation. Middleton told Lindsay she was in a very difficult position there, and that Harris may have some new charges. Middleton said the situation was a first for him. This is an issue we don't have when we were having live court. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that this has occurred, Middleton said. Kudos to the Sturgis Police Department for following up on this. That's the first time I've ever had anybody sitting in the next room potentially intimidating a witness to assault, Middleton said. Harris was lodged at the St. Joseph County Jail. The hearing was rescheduled for March 16th. And my guess is he will not be able to be in the same place, victim this time, because he's going to be behind bars where he belongs. All thanks to the assistant prosecutor who was on her tippy toes, who had her eyes peeled, who paid attention to the details, and who was a hero. I salute you. We on In the Shed with Wes, we think that you are awesome. That's a happy story. That's a good ending. It's so important that we pay attention to people around us, people who we know are going through something, people that have tough circumstances. It's important to pay attention to their body language, to their cues, and if you ever think that somebody is in trouble or might be in trouble, say something. Say something, because it really could make a difference, just like it did in this circumstance. That's all for the world of politics. Let's move on to the world of sports, and let's start with the headlines. Joel Embiid hyperextends knee and will have an MRI. Los Angeles Lakers say Anthony Davis will be out at least 2 more weeks. Oklahoma State stuns Baylor, bouncing the Bears from the Big 12 tournament. Michigan coach Juwan Howard tossed after tempers flare with Maryland coach Mark Turgeon. Karis LeVert to make his Pacers debut on Saturday. Virginia out of ACC tournament after positive COVID test. 3 Tennessee Vol football players arrested on drug charges. And Georgia high school football coach Rush Probst from MTV Two-A-Days fame is now on leave and under investigation after making allegations that both Alabama and Georgia boosters pay recruits to attend their universities. Our first story in the world of sports, let's recap the NBA All-Star Game. The NBA All-Star Game was a fun one, a high-scoring event, lots of highlights to watch. Team LeBron came out with the win with a score of 170 to Team Durant's 150. We did predict that Team LeBron would win, and they did. The All-Star Games in recent years aren't as competitive as they used to be. They're not as much fun to me as the ones I grew up on in the 90s. Back then, the All-Star Game was an opportunity for the very best players to go against each other, to rep their conference, and to kind of just prove their dominance on the defensive end, on the offensive end. It was super competitive. Nowadays, it's like an and one mixtape tour game. It's a glorified pickup game. If somebody wants to dunk, everybody else moves out of the way. They play a little bit of defense if it's a close game in the fourth quarter. And I really like how they pick the teams. I like how they have the 2 captains that pick them playground style. But everything else about the All-Star Game is not as much fun as it used to be. All-Star Weekend in the NBA is the best in all of professional sports. I do wish they would return to a little bit more competitive basketball in those games. But I do understand the players using that weekend as a chance to have fun and to put on a show for the fans and to rest. So let's take a look at our predictions. Like I said, we predicted that Team LeBron would win, and they did. What about the contests? In the skills contest, I told you that Domantas Sabonis did not have a chance in heck. And the man won the skills contest. Only come to find out that big men have actually won the skills contest for 5 years running. Apparently, your boy has not watched a skills contest in quite a while. I thought Chris Paul would win. But what I noticed was in the skill contest, the guards and the forwards, the smaller guys, the guys that are better ball handlers, the guys that should have the advantage, they loafed. They snowbirded. They took it easy. They didn't put forth effort. The big men were there to compete, and they won. So Domantas Sabonis wins the skill contest. We got that one wrong. The dunk contest, we predicted that Anthony Simons of the Portland Trail Blazers would win, and he did. It's kind of a disappointing dunk contest. There was no stars, 3 guys that nobody's ever heard of, and really some forgettable dunks. Anthony Simons, the dunk that was most impressive was when he was right by the rim looking like he was going to kiss the rim. And, of course, he got within about 3 inches and said, "Yo, this is a bad business decision. I'm about to mess up my teeth." And so he didn't actually do it. He pulled away, which was smart, but made for a less impressive dunk. He did win. We did get that right. In the three-point contest, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I predicted that Zach LaVine was going to win the three-point contest. So whoever it was, whatever listener that emailed the show and said that I don't know basketball and I was trying to argue, you might have a point. Because I did not do the easiest thing in the world to do. And that's pick Steph Curry. Chef Curry. The greatest three-point shooter in the history of humanity. I did not pick him to win the NBA three-point shooting contest. Curry put on a show in the first round. He put the fear of God into his opponents, running away with the first round. And then in the final round, he made things interesting at least. It came down to the final shot, and Steph hit it. And really looking at the All-Star game, the MVP went to Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was allegedly 16 for 16 and scored 35 points. He banked in a couple of three-point shots. But look, anybody that watched the game, it was all about Steph Curry. This All-Star game was an opportunity for Steph Curry to say, don't forget about me. And he did. He won the three-point contest. He put on a show. And then when it came to the actual All-Star game, Steph, for 28 points, pouring in long three after long three, hitting shots over taller defenders, hitting shots from half court. Him and Dame Lillard put on a shooting clinic. It was a lot of fun to watch. I know Giannis scored more points, but look, let's be real. On In the Shed with Wes, we keep it real with you. We keep it a buck with you. Giannis just dunked the ball. That's all he did. He just dunked the ball. Wide open dunks, put back dunks, alley-oops. That's how he scored all of his points, and then he banked in a couple of three-point shots. And he ain't called bank either. That form is ugly. That form is grotesque. That's the Quasimodo of jump shots that man has. He can't shoot the ball. So they gave the MVP to Giannis. They said that he was 16 of 16. But actually, they helped him out on the scorecard. Because, I watched the whole dang thing. The man missed a shot. He wasn't 16 of 16. He was 16 of 17. They scored one shot that Giannis took as a turnover instead of a shot. They said that he lost the ball before he went up. The man shot the ball and missed it. It was a bad-looking attempt. And he won the MVP. That's fine. It's the All-Star game, whatever. But this was a chance for Steph Curry to show that he is one of the very best players in the game, top 5 player alive, Hall of Famer, first ballot, greatest shooter of all time. And he ran things in the All-Star event. So we were kind of up and kind of down on our predictions. We got the game right. We missed on the skills contest. We got the dunk contest right. And somehow I missed on the three-point contest, and I regret it. And I apologize to Wardell Stephen Curry III. I don't know what I was thinking. Picking against Steph Curry in a three-point contest is like picking against Colonel Sanders when it comes to cooking chicken, or picking against Godzilla when it comes to destroying a city, or picking against Jesus Christ when it comes to rising from the dead. It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. From the NBA, we go to the NFL and the ever-developing off-season quarterback carousel. We got some news to report today, some things that just happened this afternoon and this morning in the world of NFL quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks who signed new contracts. The first, Cam Newton, re-signs with the New England Patriots on a 1-year deal. Now, a lot of people are saying that they doubt, even though he signed a 1-year contract, that he will be the starter for New England. And the word is that New England is not done when it comes to acquiring quarterbacks. It's long been said that they have their eye on Jimmy Garoppolo, that they would love to trade for him with the 49ers and have him return to New England. Bill Belichick is a big Jimmy G fan. We all know that. But I don't see it happening. There's no way that San Francisco can upgrade this offseason over Jimmy G. They're going to have to ride with him. And if I have to make a prediction, I'm going to say that Cam Newton will be the starting quarterback for New England. I would not be surprised if they take a quarterback in the draft. Someone that might need a year of development. This might be a gap year, and Cam might get a second shot there in New England. People are quick to say that Cam Newton is done. They're quick to say that he's shot, that he's seen all of his good days, and that they're all behind him. And for those people, I say slow your roll. Slow your roll. If you watch Cam Newton play with the Patriots, early season he looked very good. That first game, everybody watched him play with the Patriots. He was number 1 trending thing on Twitter. Everybody was saying, oh my gosh, the Patriots have let Tom Brady go, and yet they have an MVP. and they are going to be good. But then what happened? A couple of things. One, Julian Edelman got hurt. And once Edelman was hurt and he was out for the Patriots, y'all, they didn't have a single receiver on that team that could get open. I mean, they didn't have a single receiver that could separate from a starting NFL cornerback. And in fact, Cam Newton didn't have any receivers to work with in his 1 year with New England that would even start for any other team in the NFL. I mean, you could see clearly why Tom Brady left the Patriots. It was because he didn't have any weapons. Every year they just expect him to get in the kitchen and to cook something with a lack of ingredients. And Tom Brady might be able to do that and get 11 wins. Cam Newton at this point in his career can't. But, he didn't have nothing to work with. So a couple things that happened. One, Cam Newton had no tools. And two, Cam Newton got the coronavirus. And I don't know why nobody is talking about this and looking at his touchdown to interception ratio, looking at his poor play the second half of the season, looking at his struggles in that offense. Why are they not talking about the fact that the man had the coronavirus? Look, I know several people that have had the coronavirus. None of them are world-class athletes, but I know several people that have had the coronavirus. And all of them have told me that the hardest part about it is after you have the virus and you get over it and you're feeling well again, you're able to be around people, you start your normal routine, you have no stamina. You have no energy. You have no ability to just jump back in and do all the things that you were doing before. You have a lack of strength and fortitude. And Cam Newton wasn't just going to work or doing the laundry. The man was expected to perform at a high level on an NFL football field against the best athletes in the world. It's not realistic. It's not realistic. So to just pretend that he had a bad season in a vacuum, it's just not accurate. It's just not accurate. The man didn't have any receivers to work with. And B, he was coming off of having the coronavirus. And I know that had to affect his energy level, his stamina, his conditioning, and all of those things that are very important when you're trying to be a world-class athlete. So I think that Cam Newton can have an opportunity to perform better with the Patriots this year, his second year in the system, but they got to get him some help. Hopefully Edelman will be healthy, will be ready to go, but they got to find the man some receivers, whether it's in trades, free agency, the draft. They failed to do that for Tom Brady, not just in his last couple years, but throughout his time in New England outside of a couple of exceptions, and they failed to do that last year. The second bit of quarterback news to happen today is that our guy, Tom Brady, has signed a 4-year extension with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A 4-year extension. That means that when this man completes his contract, he will be 48 years old. Now, if you've been with us on In the Shed since the beginning, you know that the very first episode we did coming up on the new year, we made 10 predictions for the year 2021. One of them was that Tom Brady would win the Super Bowl and retire. And that does not look like it's going to happen. We got that one half right. Because the man won the Super Bowl. We had the Bucs from the beginning, and we weren't wrong, shawty. But Tom Brady apparently is not retiring until he's darn near 50 years old. At least. And you know what? I can't say that I blame him. He's pulling in millions of dollars. He's playing the game that he loves. He's an excellent leader. He's got an offensive line that protects him. He's got weapons all over the field. He's getting to play quarterback, offensive coordinator, coach, and GM in Tampa Bay. They're just so happy to have the man. And hey, I'm not looking to push you out. I'm not looking to push you out, Tom Brady. If you're having fun, if you're winning, if you're doing your thing, hey, you do you. You do you. So he's apparently going to play until he's 48 years old. Father Time is no longer undefeated. Tom Brady 1 time 0. In our last bit of quarterback news, we pumped this a little bit last week. Last week we ranked our top point guards in the NBA. This week we go to the world of the NFL, and we're going to give you our In the Shed with Wes top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL today. Number 15, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, who played wide receiver in college. Did you know that? It's true. Look it up. Texas A&M, shawty. Ryan Tannehill, who was let go by the Dolphins after having a lackluster career. His career was on life support. He went to the Titans to be a backup, but he supplanted Marcus Mariota, and he has looked good ever since. He's been a good quarterback for the Titans. He's been consistent. He's played well for them there in that offense, and he's number 15. Number 14 on our list, Joe Burrow. Now, this might be a bit controversial as Joe Burrow did not even finish out the season. He plays for a terrible team, but I like what I saw. When he was healthy, when he was on the field, he had good numbers, he showed good leadership, and he showed the ability to make the same throws in the NFL that he made in college at LSU. I've got him at number 14. If he can come back healthy, I expect big things from Joe Burrow. Number 13, Derek Carr. He's a quarterback who is perennially underrated. He put up consistent numbers there for the Raiders. He fits pretty well into John Gruden's system, and I know that Gruden and the GM there in Las Vegas aren't crazy about Derek Carr. They would like to upgrade at the position, but honestly, they can win with Derek Carr. He's an above-average quarterback. I have him at 13 on the list. Number 12 on the list, a quarterback that just finally, after years and years and years of contract negotiations, Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a good leader. He has intangibles. He can make all the throws. He moves well in the pocket. He's often underrated. I think that he is a winning quarterback in the NFL. He's not top 10, but I think that he's a top 15 quarterback for sure. I have him at number 12. Number 11 on our list, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has played in obscurity in Detroit for a horrible, horrible franchise for many, many years. And he's put up tremendous numbers, but we haven't got to see him for very many winning football teams. We'll get a chance to see that this year as he's been traded to the Rams. But I think he's still a good quarterback in the league. I think that he's certainly beyond above average. We have him at number 11. Now for the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Number 10, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is an easy scapegoat after the debacle in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady when they had a 28-3 lead and they gave it up, and the Falcons did what Atlanta sports franchises do. They blew the lead. They've continued to blow leads until their coach got fired. It's easy to dump on Matt Ryan. He's not been the problem in Atlanta. He's consistently played well, sometimes not great, but he's played well, and he is still a top 10 quarterback in the league. Number 9, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, I have to admit, is a much better NFL quarterback than I ever thought he would be. He's tremendously undersized, but he does have a rocket arm. He's a good runner, a good thrower of the football. He finds his open man, and he pretty much has been the offense there for Arizona. It's going to be interesting to see what their team looks like this year. I have Kyler Murray at number 9. A bit of controversy here, number 8, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has only played the 1 year in the NFL. He was a tremendous rookie. But look, he has the size. He has the poise in the pocket. He has the arm. He has the IQ. I like what I see from Justin Herbert. I think that he's a top 10 NFL quarterback already. We have him at number 8. Number 7, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the most exciting player at the quarterback position since Michael Vick. He puts on a show with his running ability, his ability to make a man miss. He's got to improve in his accuracy and his consistency and his deep ball down the field. But there's no doubt that he's a winning quarterback. He's a good quarterback. We have him at number 7. One spot above Lamar Jackson at number 6, Josh Allen. I was not sold on Josh Allen until this last year when he lit things up. It looks like he has finally lived up to his potential, that he's grown into his role as a starting quarterback in the NFL on a good team. He's been coached really well, and he's actually shown a lot of development. I think Josh Allen is the 6th best quarterback in the NFL at this point. Number 5, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had an absolutely epic year last year for an absolutely horrendous team. He put up great numbers. He showed great leadership. He kept them in the game every week. Despite the fact that the team has gotten rid of anyone else that had talent on that team. Deshaun Watson, if he finally gets his way out of Houston and finds his way to a contender, it'll be interesting to see what he does. Coming out of college, after having a tremendous college career, Dabo Swinney called him the Michael Jordan of football. He's not quite there yet, but he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Number 4 on our list, Tom Brady. Now, that does not mean that there are 3 quarterbacks that I would rather have in a big game than Tom Brady. If we're picking a quarterback to start the Super Bowl, I'm not going to pick anyone ahead of Tom Brady. I'm just not going to do it. I was dumb to pick against Steph Curry in the three-point shooting contest, and I'm not picking against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Not never. I don't care if he's 48, 49, 57 years old. I'm going to go with Tom Brady. But if we're talking about quarterback rankings in the NFL, we're talking about Sunday-to-Sunday performance. We're talking about where their skill set stands now. There are guys who are ahead of Tom Brady, but he still is number 4 on the list, even at the age of 43 years old. Number 3, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, who is not appreciated in Seattle. Russell Wilson, who is overlooked by his own head coach and his own GM, but who has kept that team in contention and that team winning their division and winning 10, 11, 12 games every year, no matter the offensive line, no matter the defense. Look, Russell Wilson is one of the very best quarterbacks to play the game. He's a Hall of Famer. He's the best quarterback to not win an MVP in recent memory. He's a tremendous quarterback. He makes the right reads. He's great before the snap. He's number 3 on our list. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, the MVP of the league. Aaron Rodgers that had a tremendous year last year with the Packers. After having a little bit of a down year, he came back with a fury. He's still able to move well in the pocket. There's no quarterback that is more accurate. His interception to touchdown ratio is phenomenal. Everybody knows his talent. Only the one Super Bowl, you'd like to see him win another one at some point, but when you're looking at the grand landscape of quarterbacks, he's number 2 on our list. And in my estimation, here on In the Shed with Wes, the best quarterback in the NFL today, Patrick Mahomes. I know Patrick Mahomes has played in 2 Super Bowls and has not looked phenomenal in either one. I know that Tom Brady outplayed him in this last one. But if you're looking at arm talent, if you're looking at ability, if you're looking at development, if you're looking at ceiling, and if you're looking at week-to-week performance, there's just no way right now that you can rank anyone ahead of Pat Mahomes. He fits so seamlessly into an Andy Reid offense. He's a great leader. His teammates love him. And in our estimation, he is the best quarterback in the NFL today. So there are our top 15 NFL quarterbacks. Let us know what you think. Who are your top 5 NFL quarterbacks? Who do we leave off the list that you would rather have us put on the list? Where were we right? Where were we wrong? Email the show at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com and let us know. Those are our top 15 quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, and Ryan Tannehill. That's all for the world of sports. Let's switch to this. Let's go to the world of the paranormal. In our first story, we go to the funeral home. TikTok Undertaker reveals most terrifying paranormal moments in his career. Morty Stein, who goes by the name Funeral Home Confessions on TikTok, has recalled a number of unexplained incidents, including a terrifying experience while working at a so-called haunted funeral home. During this particular incident, Stein and a colleague had been viewing a service in the chapel below when a creepy voice came out of nowhere. A few years ago, I used to work at a funeral home that had a reputation for being haunted. No, thank you. I would find a different job, but that's just me. There was a loft that overlooked the chapel, and the only way you could go up to the loft was to open a really creepy door and go up some really rickety stairs, Stein recalled. So if anybody opened the door or went up the stairs, you would know somebody was on their way up. We were actually watching our boss conduct a service, and while we were upstairs in the loft watching the service, we heard this voice yell, "Out. Get out of here." Hey, real talk, I think I would listen to the voice. I think if I hear a voice yelling, "Get out of here," I would get out. I would get out of there. He added, me and my coworker, we looked at each other, both of our faces turned white. What color were they before? It don't matter. It's all love, shawty. And we beelined down the stairs. I think the last 5 steps I missed completely, and I opened the door and bolted out. In another video, Stein responded to a follower asking him whether he believes in ghosts, to which he responded, Absolutely I do. And here's a story I have no explanation for. I was actually getting a person ready for a viewing, and as I wheeled him in the chapel, the casket was open, and I was doing some final preparations, getting the suit jacket nice and tight, and I always placed the right hand over the left, he recalled. That's an important thing to do. You gotta go right over left. You can't go left over right. That's just savage. We don't do that. Right over left. The family came in and did the final viewing. They had the visitation, and at the end of the visitation, after everybody left, I was getting ready to close the casket, and the left hand was over the right. No. So I changed it and put the right hand back over the left, closed the casket lid, locked it, and went home. Stein continued. The next day I came back. I was the first one in the funeral home. I unlocked the casket, opened it up, and the left hand was over the right. It could have been someone playing a joke on me, but I think it was a ghost. Yep, that's me not sleeping tonight. That's creepy. That's creepy. You put the right hand over the left, and on 2 separate occasions, the dead man has switched hands. Yo, I would find a different career. I do not care how much time, I don't care what money or what training I had to get to work there. I would rather deliver pizzas, work at a grocery store, or even clean somebody's condo than work a job where dead people are playing jokes on me. I would be so scared, even right now, in this shed at darn near midnight, with the fog all around me. I can't even see my house. I'm a little scared right now. From the funeral home, we go to the world of hip-hop. Post Malone has finally addressed being cursed by that haunted box. Yeah, the haunted box. It's been almost 3 years since Post Malone's experience and the chain of events that led him to believe that he had been cursed by the object. Now, Posty is finally opening up about the experience and the chain of events that led him to believe that he had been cursed by the object. For those of you that are unaware of the situation, here's a quick recap. All the way back in September 2018, Ghost Adventure star Zach Baggins revealed that Post Malone's string of bad luck, a car accident, an emergency landing via plane, and failed robbery attempt, was all due to the rapper being cursed. Prior to all this happening, Posty hung out with Zach Baggins at his haunted museum in Las Vegas. During his visit, Post Malone came in contact with an object known as the Dybbuk box. Did I say that right? Dybbuk. D-Y-B-B-U-K. Dybbuk. I'm going to say Dybbuk. The Dybbuk box. The object is allegedly haunted by a malicious spirit, and it was the inspiration for the 2012 movie, The Possession. No, thank you. I am not touching that box. I don't want to hold it. I don't want to look at it. I do not want to be in the same room with it. I have a great relationship with the Lord, but I don't want to have a relationship with the box. According to Baggins, he touched the box and was visibly freaked out, so Post Malone put his hand on his shoulder. Although the rapper had no direct contact with the object, both Baggins and Post Malone always believed the encounter was enough to trigger Posty's bad luck. Now, nearly 3 years after the encounter, Post Malone is finally opening up about his experience. During a recent interview on Late Night with Seth Meyers, the Grammy-nominated rapper said that the whole experience made him a believer of paranormal spirits. After going hunting with Zach and everything and all that stuff, we stayed at his museum in Vegas. I love you, Zach. Text me, he says. Y'all, Post Malone is such a sweetheart. Like, that man got face tattoos, but he a big teddy bear for real. Like, I like Post Malone. I used to hear his music and think, he is not a rapper. All the auto-tune I can do without. But yo, he's actually a talented musician and a genuinely nice guy. It's weird because after we opened up this creepy Dybbuk box, I had gotten in a car accident. I almost had a plane wreck. My house got broken into and all that type of stuff. But it was just within a month's time. It was really odd stuff. I've always had an interest in that and experience at my friends' houses. During the interview, he also talks about his belief in aliens. Last year, he revealed that he experienced his first UFO encounter when he was just 16 years old. Especially here in Utah, things are creepy if you look up in the sky, he tells Myers. Sometimes I just go out at like 4 a.m. with my night vision goggles on and just look up at the sky and see if I can see anything. That sounds like a good time. That sounds like a lot of fun. Post Malone, night vision goggles, 4 a.m., and the sky. I would like to do that too. Posty, if you ever hear this, you can fly me out or even come to Alabama. And I'll have you here in the shed. But bring your night vision goggles and let's look at the sky together, because that sounds like a good time. With the 2021 Super Bowl taking place, Seth Meyers had to ask Posty about his Kansas City Chiefs tattoo. Last year, Post Malone got the new ink after he lost a game of beer pong against quarterback Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, and tight end Travis Kelce. Posty is also the star of Bud Light's new Star Wars-inspired Super Bowl commercial. Fans got an exclusive glimpse of the advertisement during the interview. Do you think Post Malone was cursed by that haunted box? Do you think he should appear on Ghost Adventures again? Let us know. Email us at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. So that's a fun story there. Post Malone, who is a lot of fun. And that's some bad luck, right? It's like have this incident with this weird, supposedly haunted box, and within a month's time from that date, you get into a car wreck, your house is broken into, and a plane that you're in almost crashes. Definitely some weird stuff. Before we hit our last story of the evening, I want to offer our second ever In the Shed with Wes review. So first we did a review of the sci-fi original show Resident Alien. That is a show that we are very impressed with, that we like and recommend to you highly. Now I'd like to give a review of a movie that I saw on Netflix. So me and the wife had a date the other night, a stay-in date. We had a nice dinner together, and then we got on the couch to Netflix, and we picked out a movie called What Happened to Monday. If you haven't seen this movie, I would recommend it to you. It's super interesting. Essentially, it takes place in a dystopian future, I think in like the year 2073, something like that. And the population has become such a burden on the world that we are no longer able to feed people, that it's just causing all kinds of issues. And so they come out with this rule that every family can only have one child. It's a no sibling policy worldwide. You're not allowed to have any siblings. And so if you do, if you have more than one child, the additional children get taken from the family and they get frozen in this hyperbaric chamber where allegedly when the world is in a better place, they will be brought back. The only problem is, spoiler alert, ain't nobody really planning to bring them children back. So the movie, What Happened to Monday, it follows a one man and his wife who, or a father actually and a daughter, and the lady has 7 children at one time, 7 children. And unfortunately, she dies in the process of childbirth. And so it's on her father to raise these 7 children. And so he names them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And he comes up with this plan to keep their birth a secret. And so he keeps them in his apartment. And one day a week, each one of the children takes on the same identity and is allowed out of the house. So on Monday gets to leave the house. On Tuesday gets to go out. On Wednesday gets to go out, so on and so forth. But they all are playing the role of the same person. They're pretending to be just the one child that the family is allowed to have. So they make their look identical. At the end of the day, they have a little huddle where they share exactly what happened in their day. They work on projects together. They do all that sort of stuff. Now, the movie follows their attempt to keep the secret of their family and to go against this lady, this figurehead in government who is implementing this one child only, no sibling policy. It's a super interesting movie. It has twists and turns that I have not spoiled or shared with you. It's a lot of fun. It's really different than anything else that I have seen lately. I thought that it was a good idea, that there was a lot of good writing. And they even have accents in the movie, and it didn't bother me. Sometimes I'm like, yo, I need some subtitles. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know English slang. But actually, it was not a problem, and it was a dope movie. And so out of a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being I will never watch it again and 5 being I will skip work to watch it, I give What Happened to Monday a 4.275. A strong 4.275. So I would recommend that movie to you highly. What Happened to Monday on Netflix. It's a dope movie. Watch it. Let me know what you think. Email us at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com and let us know if you agree with our review of that film. And for our final story of the week, we go to Finland. Or do we? Is Finland real? A conspiracy theory gaining traction online suggests that the country of Finland does not actually exist, and the landmass the country supposedly occupies is actually open sea. The theory claims that Finland was fabricated during the Cold War by the Soviet Union and Japan to secure fishing rights in an enlarged Baltic Sea. The theory holds that the country of Finland is a construct by various interests, chiefly the governments of Japan and Russia, and carefully nurtured by the promulgation of fake maps, histories, tour guides, and other methods. Under the theory, the landmass believed by most people to be occupied by Finland is actually open sea, part of an enlarged Baltic Sea. According to the conspiracy theory, the idea of Finland was created sometime during the Cold War. The theory continues that, according to proponents of the conspiracy theory, Japanese-Soviet relations and Japanese-Russian relations before and after the existence of the Soviet Union have been in some ways secretive and mysterious. For instance, as early as 1925, Japan and the Soviet Union had secret bilateral fishing right agreements, with the Soviet Union giving up much of its fishing rights to Japan with no obvious motive or explanation as to why. It is pointed out by proponents of the conspiracy theory that during World War II, the two countries which then shared a common border did not fight except at the very end, even though they belonged to enemy alliances. And Japan signed a peace treaty with the Soviets in 1941, just months before their German allies invaded the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, according to proponents of the theory, relations between Japan and the Soviet Union were always good despite the major geopolitical differences and competing alliances to which each belonged. These secret relations continued up to the end of the Soviet Union, with Mikhail Gorbachev making trips to Japan months before the fall of the Soviet Union, even when Soviet relations with the rest of the world were deteriorating. The explanation, according to the theory, is that they shared a common secret, a common asset that benefited both: Finland. It is not known exactly when Finland was first invented, possibly during the Cold War, or possibly as far back as the 1920s. The construct Finland allows Japan to fish the Baltic Sea between Sweden and Russia without restriction from competition, catch limits, environmental regulations, or other concerns. In return, Russia gets a percentage of the catch. The catch is transported across Russia to eastern Russia, the real reason the Trans-Siberian Railway was completed, then shipped to Japan under the guise of Nokia products. This is why Nokia is the largest Finnish company, and why Japan is, according to the theory, the largest importer of Nokia products, despite the fact that very few Japanese people actually own Nokia phones. According to the theory, Finnish people do exist and believe that they live in Finland, although they actually live in small towns in eastern Sweden, western Russia, and northern Estonia. Helsinki is located in eastern Sweden, and most of Finland is described to the world as scantily populated or unpopulated forest and lake areas. In the parts of Estonia, Sweden, and Russia that are allocated as Finnish zones, the GPS locations are manipulated to match that of Finland. Satellite images are forged. IP addresses are spoofed. Social democratic Western countries in on the conspiracy benefit by using Finland as an aspirational model. Finland is arranged to always place first in global surveys of healthcare, gender equality, literacy rates, lack of corruption, press freedom, education, and so forth. It serves as a model for these states to hold up to their population as a goal for policy developments in their own country. We see you, Bernie Sanders. We know what you're doing, Uncle Bernie. Another point made is that Finnish people make up 0.09% of the world's population, which is within the margin of error in censuses. That is, that 0.09% can be 0% within the margin of error. I will say that is a new one to me, the idea that Finland is not actually a real place. And that's wild. That's crazy. What do you think? Is Finland a real place, or could it be a construct? Could it be that actually there is no place called Finland? There has been a conspiracy between the Soviets and now the Russians and the Japanese. Are we being lied to? We may never know. Let us know what you think about that conspiracy. That was kind of a crazy one, a funny one, a cool one. I thought I would share that with you because in all of my years of hearing and reading different conspiracy theories, that is a new one to me, something that has popped up on the internet that is gaining some traction. There are people that really genuinely believe that it is true. If you're hearing this and you are in Finland, get at us. Let us know. Are you in a real place? Are you sure that you're not in Estonia or Russia or Sweden? Let us know. Email the show. That's all for this week. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I can't either. It's back in the house and out of the shed for me. Thanks again for listening to episode 008. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, and review. It really does help. If you have any paranormal experiences, opinions about sports or politics that you'd like to share, you can email the show at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. Again, that's intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. I might even read it on air. Look for us on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tune in again next week when we'll hit the headlines, tour the White House, check in with the NCAA basketball tournament, and investigate together whether it's possible that octopuses are really aliens. This has been In the Shed with Wes Anderson, the best news show in the land covering politics, sports, and the paranormal. Have an adventurous and fulfilling weekend. I'll catch you tools later. Peace out, Boy Scouts. Meemaw, we made it!